much time did you spend with Kamala?
A lot. They came to my house. I hosted them for free. I'm one of those rich who give money. I don't get paid for any of this.
Nothing.
Nothing. I feel like it stole half a decade of my life. And I realized conservatives were right all along. That's what we're deciding between the continued existence of a republic or an authoritarian regime. And President Trump wants America to prosper.
What really happened in 2020 when Biden won?
They gave us talking points on a daily basis.
Who's they?
The campaign, the White House, we were sent talking points. And I'm gonna catch so much flack, but I'm here to be honest. I do have one picture that looks kind of weird.
Of you and him?
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm about to make news, aren't I? Someone told me that he's having an affair with his wife, who's basically become a national hero.
Who did you learn that has the most power behind closed doors that everybody fears, that no one knows about?
There were 3 of them. They were essentially the president behind the scenes, and Biden was just the facade.
Like, what could they do?
They could do anything.
What's anything?
Run the world.
You know what I wanted to know about this podcast here, this sit down with Lindy Li? I mean, she's been all over the place. I wanted to find out how all these people were behind closed doors and who really had the power. She gave 3 names of the most powerful people under Biden's administration. She broke down the relationship between Joe Biden and Kamala. Unbelievable. She spent time around Kamala, Hillary, every one of them, Obama, Clooney. We covered so many different things and how the whole thing came about. I said, what happened behind closed doors when the President Trump had the assassination attempt? What was the reaction like on the DNC side? What did people say? Were some people celebrating? A lot was covered. You'll be blown away by this sit down with her. And I asked right off the bat the question a lot of people want to know. Is she straight up? Is she real? Is she that? Is she this? And right in the first 2 minutes, you're going to hear that question being asked. And for some of you, whether you agree with her or you don't agree with her, guess what? She's also on Minect. So you can go to Minect. QR code is probably going to be right here. Ask her any questions you got as well on Minect. Enjoy this interview with Lindy Li.
30 seconds.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so close I could take sweet victory. I know this life meant for me.
Adam, what's your point? The future looks bright.
My handshake is better than anything I ever signed. It's right here.
You are a one of one.
My son's right about
I don't think I've ever said this before.
Okay, so we got a special guest here today. Let me tell you who we have. We have Lindy Li. If you watch television after election, you will recognize the face because she was all over the place. I think the first time I saw it was on a Chris Cuomo. When Chris Cuomo had her on, it's like, hey, here's what's going on. Democratic donor, turns, flips, all this stuff. And next thing you know, she's all over the place on the conservative outlets. Everybody's putting her on. She's coming back and forth telling stories, different podcasts, different shows. And then we've been talking. Eventually, we said, let's sit down and have a conversation together. To give the exact title was Mid-Atlantic Regional Chair at the DNC, and now a conservative. And she's got a lot of enemies. And I got some questions I want to ask her, and she's straight up open to any questions. So having said that, it's great to have you on a podcast.
Pat, it's so good to be here.
Yes.
Honestly, you are a superstar.
Thank you. How are you handling all these shots you're taking? People are coming after you left and right.
It's actually, I was just texting somebody in the middle of the night a few hours ago, and I'm saying something, after my Sean Ryan interview, something cracked. I'm no longer the same person I was before that interview.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of hate and the amount of venom in that hate has altered me, I think. Hopefully not permanently, but there's just something just snapped. It's just, and what did I do? Let's think about what actually happened. I told the truth, right? That's really what happened. And on the right, there are people who are pissed off that I jumped the line, so to speak, that I'm getting media attention. On the left, they're so angry that I told the truth because they don't want to be held accountable for the billions that they set on fire. They don't want to be held accountable for the conspiracy around Biden's cognitive decline.
So in the last week, I'll just tell you in the last week what happened. When I'm doing an interview, I'll ask peers, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And these are the different responses I got from people, just so you know that. One response was, she's my favorite. I love her. She exposed everybody. You have to talk to her. She's amazing. Let her talk. Let her tell all the dirt, the stuff that the DNC has done, et cetera, et cetera. Great. And by the way, that was a lot of people that were on that side. I'm at a Goldman Sachs event 2 days ago in Miami, and one of the vice chairs is giving a talk to a small group of 40, 50 people. One of the investors, that's their client, that's theirs, comes up to me, he watches a podcast. He says, let me tell you about this. What do you think about this Lindy Li girl? And he's telling me this. I'm like, what do you think about her? So I'm curious. I'm getting ready. I think she's a plant. I think she's a grifter. I think she's a this. I said,
Plant
really?
from where?
Well, he's telling me this. And this is a guy that's a $500 million guy. He's a money guy.
Oh,
So I
wow.
said, so let me ask you, who did you vote for? I voted for Trump. Really? So would you consider yourself a rhino? Were you a Nikki Haley? I can't stand Nikki Haley. Really? And you don't like Lindy? I don't like Lindy. Very interesting. So you're not with it? No, you're not. All right. So then I'm sitting there myself. I'm saying, the tweets from you, right, in the past. You've seen these tweets that were in the past. I mean, this
the
is just...
rapist thug on, let's just talk about it.
Right, just in the last 4 years. I'll give you some of these things you said, right? 2020, February 26, Joe Biden has the biggest heart of any of the candidates. He also doesn't raise our blood pressure or alienate 70% of the party, rest of America. That's 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Then there's another one. Happy National Joe Day. I took this in SF last year. Every time we meet, Biden is kind and compassionate. That's that one. Great, no problem. You're saying nice things about Biden. Another one here is, I was with President Biden a few minutes after the debate tonight. Here we are at the watch party. He was amazing and kind, as he always is, remembering tiny details about me and my family. I don't care what the pundits say about this great man. I will always be Team Biden. That's June of 2024, say 9 months ago. Then there's another one here, July 21st. I fully endorse Kamala Harris for president. She is a fierce champion for everything we hold dear, including our cherished democracy, reproductive rights, et cetera, et cetera. Another one. To the haters out there, underestimate the Vice President Kamala Harris at your peril. She is a tremendous force for good. Another one. Nikki Haley is just jealous because Kamala Harris is more powerful and closer at the presidency than she'll ever be. I mean, I can go on and on and on and read all this stuff, right? I will tell you, I think it's very important that you're talking about it, but I wrote 2 other things down that maybe caused you to want to leave. And I'd be curious to know, any one of these, I'd love for you to just get into it so the audience knows, and then we can get into all the questions. Did someone offend you? Did somebody try to bully you? Did something happen at the end with just the camel? It was like, I am absolutely done with this bullying, with this threat, with all this bullshit. I'm out of here. I'm going to tell all your BS because you guys didn't keep your commitment. You guys didn't play the game and you left. What was it for you to make this dramatic of a change within a few days?
First of all, it was a few months. I know this is not what I anticipated at all. And thank you for, you're always extremely fair to your guests. So I know that I have critics out there, and I'm happy to address all of their questions and concerns. It wasn't just bullying. Bullying I can take. I've been hated on and screamed at and spit upon all my life, and I'm sure you have too. You know what it's like. It's just part of the cost of doing business.
For sure.
Bullying is one thing. The death threats, the smear campaigns, the cancer culture campaigns, that's a whole nother level. Going after my parents who have nothing to do with this, finding their address, harassing these two, like they're getting up there.
This is your former colleagues. You're saying
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
my parents who have absolutely nothing at all to do with this. They just love me. That's their only crime. Like to drag them in, to drag my brother in, that is just so I'm getting like heated just talking about it. That is not acceptable.
In what way did they do that?
Messaging my parents with these threats. My mom, I have receipts. I don't know. I can send you the screenshot after my brother telling me my mom has been freaking out all day because of the death threats, and she had to file a police report. It's just so over the top. Like going after me is one thing. I can take it, but my mom, who has not, it's just out of bounds.
What were they telling your mom? And how soon was it after the election? Like.
A week or two. It wasn't at that point. I was just asking questions. Like it wasn't even. I was like, "What happened to the $2.5 billion we raised? Why did we spend it on Beyonce? Why did we spend 2.5? Why did we spend millions of dollars on Oprah?" Like legitimate questions that needed to be answered. But the amount of hate I got for that was just overwhelming. And the final straw, the moment that I knew that I needed to leave, was actually around Christmas Eve, when the chair of the party, he's the biggest clown that the Democratic Party has ever, like honestly, in recent history, I can't think of a more incompetent boob than this man. And if you just look at him,
it's pretty bad to be an incompetent boob. That's not good. DNC chair Rob, can you pull up, which one are you talking about?
Jamie Harrison.
Okay, I got you.
And
Tell me why.
You can go on his timeline. Just look at his tweets from yesterday. They're all about me. If he had spent more time attacking Republicans or actually running a campaign, we wouldn't, if he had spent half the time he did attacking me on attacking Republicans, they wouldn't be in this situation. Do you see it? He's calling me a narcissist. He's showing my private communications. This guy is obsessed.
What's he showing, Rob? Can we see it? Lindy Li, you're a narcissist, and the only question you raised to me were those asking how you could get another picture with the VP or how you could get into the reverse seating areas of rallies, grifters, going to grift. You are a fraud, but the next time you want to check me on Newsmax, make sure you share some of the notes you sent.
You know what set him off? I said that he engaged in a conspiracy to hide Biden's cognitive decline. Instead of engaging with me on the content and substance of my criticisms, he's doing this childish 5-year-old shit. Like, honestly, grow up. Are you a toddler? And for the past couple months, he's been tweeting GIFs at me of like raging dumpster fires instead of answering the basic question. Why did we squander the hard-earned money of the American people? We had a duty of care to them, a trust. If people are giving money to the Democratic Party, we needed to be good stewards of those funds, not blowing it on 5-star hotels for ourselves or fancy dinners or whatever, which is what he did. And the fact that he chose not to run for re-election tells you everything, that no one has confidence. And I'm still in touch with Democratic donors at that level. You know, the uniparty stuff, there's a certain element of truth to that. I still am friends with a lot of Democratic donors. All of them think so little of this guy. He failed upwards. He lost bitterly to Lindsey Graham and then got his job as DNC chair because he was friends with James Clyburn. But I don't even want to waste oxygen talking about him. But he is just an emblem of what is wrong with this Democratic Party. They don't want to answer substantive questions. They go for these personal attacks.
Well, what happened, though? What I want to know is, you hear stories. Reagan used to be a Democrat. He left the party, and he went and became a Republican. And you read the story. Something happened. You see, normally it's the other way around, the left leaving to the right. I mean, we saw Bobby leaving. I don't know if he's a Republican, but he's working with Trump. Tulsi leaving, independent and probably Republican, and she's over here, right? You see some of the people from the left. But what did they do to you behind closed doors? When you're asking, and who are you in direct contact with? Like, who is calling you out? Who is saying things to you? Who is not answering you? Was there a moment where you said, if you guys don't do X, Y, Z, I'm out? Did that moment ever happen?
He was the top of the chair. He was the top of the party.
And how often are you communicating with him?
He only communicates in public. He doesn't answer any private communications. He wants the drama. He's using me for clickbait, to be clear. He doesn't want to answer any questions. But it wasn't just one single incident. I've been shifting rightward for the past couple of years. There are a lot of things in my personal life that have egged me on here. And I mean, I don't want to bore you with the details, but there are a lot of deeply personal things that shaped, as a conservative, conservative is a liberal mugged by reality. And I have literally been mugged by people on the street in Philadelphia by a progressive, which is run by a progressive George Soros funded prosecutor. This is very personal, but it's true, and people might not recognize the impact of it. I was on birth control for 5 years. I was told to get on it by a liberal doctor who basically marketed it as something that would solve. I have health issues. I didn't go on it for licentious behavior or anything like that. It was supposed to help with something. But it completely altered my mind almost. And when I decided to come off it in May 2023, I feel like I reclaimed my life. And I realized conservatives were right all along. And people might ridicule me for citing this as a reason, but I feel like it stole half a decade of my life. Half a decade that I was kind of living on the sidelines of what I could have been. And so I'm playing catch up. I've been playing catch up for the past 2 years because I bought into that ideology that birth control was going to, it would herald independence, a new era for women. But it actually just hijacked my mind. And so that happened. And then the assaults on the street, and I've always been conservative. I've been a Christian all my life, and the party has just been lurching to the left. I want nothing at all. It makes me sick. I don't want nothing to do with the woke and the trans ideology. I didn't sign up for that. That was a recent development, right? In the past 5-6 years, the Democratic Party that I joined was rooted in middle-class values of moderation, fiscal responsibility, you know?
While you're there, and I get that, but to me, while you're in it and you're raising the money, 10 million, 2 million, 3 million, you're raising millions for these guys, right? What's the incentive? Meaning, is there a comp plan? Is there a way you're getting paid the more money you raise?
No. But by the way, I wasn't paid. I'm a donor. I'm one of those rich fucks who give money. I don't get paid for any of this.
Nothing.
Nothing.
So what was your motivation to do that?
I love to do it. I love politics. I just love it. My entire life. I want to be very clear, and some people don't understand English or don't understand the English that I speak. Let me say it one more time. I was not paid a single dime to raise money for Biden, Harris, or anybody. They came to my house. I hosted them for free. My family, we own a lot of real estate. We donated a church. We donated buildings. We didn't collect. Actually, Oprah should have done what I did. We made in-kind contributions and we covered the rent and the production costs. Oprah was reimbursed. She got $2 million. We didn't take any money. So I was not paid. I want to be very clear. Those people calling me a grifters, they're either ignorant or they're liars.
This is very important, though,
it's
to
so
say
important.
this. So nobody ever paid you.
And no one, are you paying me today?
No,
exactly.
No, but what I'm saying is during that time, so you're raising this money for no reason, then it has to be.
The thrill of the game. I love it. I know it's so hard for people to understand, but I love to be in the center of the action. This is what having come from an authoritarian regime that would have arrested me by now. Like, I was born in China where women in politics was just unthinkable. I consider it a sacred trust to be involved in politics, to shape American thought. It's such an honor to be here. So
it's for the love of the game. Now, okay, so let me be devil's advocate. Is it getting into parties? Is it getting you into meetings that maybe you wouldn't have gotten if you wouldn't have given that money? Is it getting you to meet people that's kind of cool?
But that's not all of it. It's also just, I loved, shaping as an influencer, as, someone who worked so hard. I'm a commissioner of Pennsylvania, by the way. I was appointed by the governor to, have an impact on my communities, on my state, on my Commonwealth. That's amazing. It's something that, as someone who comes from a communist regime, I never would have had that opportunity. So I think even my brother, who's born here, he doesn't understand why I care so much. He's in business. He just doesn't understand my fixation with politics.
So if you're raising money for these guys and it has nothing to do with, you're not getting paid nothing. There's no so you have to raise money. Why weren't you raising money for Republicans? Why did you raise money for Democrats?
I wonder that a lot during the campaign, actually.
Why didn't you?
I really wondered that. I was like, actually, we were at a dinner with Doug Emhoff, and my guest was like, why are we here? We were watching the antics on the stage, and my guest was like, we're on the wrong team, aren't we? And this is in the middle of the campaign. So yeah, that question, I'm crying right now, just talking about it. But like in the middle, I was like, this isn't right. Like neither of us identified. The party was shifting so quickly. It was happening in like real time. And they worshipped like LGBTQIA+. Every year there's another letter added. Next year there's going to be like a Z attached or something. And
they're thinking that's resonating with the people, but it's not. When you're in it with others who are also raising money and they're seeing how things are going, were there any others like you on the inside that are like, Lindy, what are we doing here? What the hell is going on? Are there other fundraisers like you out there?
You mentioned Goldman Sachs.
Yes.
A lot of my donors. I'm sorry, people are going to call me a Wall Street shill, and I did work for Morgan Stanley. So, but those, as a donor, you have to have money, and a lot of my donors are in finance. And so they're conservative leaning, and they gave because I asked them to, not because they really believe. They gave because they're my friends. And a lot of them were like, oh, wow, this party is becoming like a little bit too much. But also, to be honest, many of them consider Trump to be an existential threat to democracy. And for these folks, for the business people, they want a stable economy most of all. They want, a prosperous stock market. They want America to prosper and to be stable and to not be turbulent.
Did you spend time with, how much time did you spend with Kamala, with Doug Emhoff, with Biden? How much time did you spend with them?
A lot.
What
it's
did
very
you,
hard.
how different are they when the cameras are off versus when the cameras are on?
Joe is who you, I was, again, speaking with somebody recently. I don't think he remembers his misdeeds from years ago.
Joe.
I don't think he remembers. I think he's significantly mellowed in recent years. Doug Emhoff is the one that's most different in terms of public and private persona. Joe is just Joe. And I have a lot of criticism to level against Joe Biden. His decision to stay in that race was catastrophic for the nation. His decision to run in 2020 and his dissent right now, it's just such a disservice to our country. But on a personal level, he was always kind to me. Always kind. And a part of me, and I'm going to catch so much flack, but I'm here to be honest. A part of me will always love him for that kindness that he's shown me, the kindness that he's shown my father, whom he's met. I introduced him to people that I love. He was always so deeply kind. And I'm sorry if that offends people, because I know people want to think of Biden as some evil monster. And he did do really bad things. But on a one-on-one level with him, he was just...
What was that instance with you when he said, "How's your husband doing?" And, which was that when you kind of knew his memory is gone, or was he?
Well, I knew that before, because when I hosted him at the Mayflower, the hotel in DC on May 1st, he stomped over my event by making news that day, by calling our allies, India and Japan, xenophobic. And I was like, oh my God. Like, it was supposed to be a joyful event. And an American president isn't supposed to be attacking our allies like that. But he either didn't remember, or I don't know what happened. He had a brain fart that day.
Now, the audience doesn't know. You're not married. So when he said, "How's your husband doing?"
Well, most of the people at that event know me. They know that I don't have But everyone
he's saying that it's just kind of like,
laughed. Everyone just laughed. Exactly.
Got it. So he wasn't trying to be funny. He was actually asking.
No. That was earnest.
That was earnest. So he was asking a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So how was Doug Emhoff like? Was he charming, charismatic?
I have something to say about Doug.
Sure.
Those allegations against him of hitting his girlfriend, the mainstream media covered it up the same way they covered up Hunter Biden's laptop. It sickens me. If it were Trump, if someone accused Trump, and it wasn't just accused, it was credibly accused with multiple eyewitnesses, multiple contemporaneous people that the woman reached out to. If that had happened to Trump, they would have raised hell. They would have asked him day in and day out, what happened? Can you think of one mainstream media journalist who asked Doug? Absolutely not. Total crickets. Nobody asked him about hitting the girlfriend so hard she spun around. And impregnating the nanny. Again, these are allegations, I want to be clear, but no one asked him about that. There are plenty of allegations flying around Trump, and he's always asked about them.
What did you guys say behind closed doors about the
We believe the woman.
You believe the woman?
I believe the woman.
While you're raising money, you believe the woman?
Yeah. That came out, I think, in September. I actually stopped raising in September. I stopped. I haven't told anyone, but I stopped. In September, I stopped.
When the story came out, that's the last time you started?
That wasn't the catalyst, but as many things that I mentioned, again, it's not like one specific thing, but my disillusionment with the woke shit and everything, and me realizing that Harris just wasn't up to for a few weeks, I was like, maybe she could do it. But she avoided the media for an entire month, essentially. I don't know if you remember, like over the summer, she just disappeared.
Yeah. She didn't want to talk to anybody. It was like 43, 45 days. I don't know what the number was. Right after the announcement, for 45 days, she didn't talk to media at all.
And your wonderful producer, Tony, he was just mentioning she wouldn't come on your podcast.
Yeah, no.
If you are going to be the leader of the free world, you should come on PBD podcast and explain why you deserve the role. But so Doug, what happened to Doug was one reason, because he paraded himself as this really supportive husband who loves women, who's a feminist, and then behind closed doors, he's actually a predator, alleged predator. I want to be very clear. Alleged, everyone. Alleged. Hasn't been proven in the court of law. He's a lawyer, so I don't want to be sued.
It's very good to use the word allegedly. It's a good insurance policy.
Exactly.
Nowadays. We even have a shirt called allegedly, just to make sure people are safe.
I said alleged.
How was he with you behind closed doors?
He was nice. Nice,
respectful, no.
No, he didn't. I do have one picture that looks kind of weird.
Of you and him.
Yeah. Am I allowed to? Should I pull it up right now? And then but I think he was just being nice.
That's
that's the one. How did you know?
Rob is good. Leave it to Rob to find it.
Okay, that was an ill-fitting dress, so
Okay.
it wasn't entirely his fault. But
So Rob, if you look at his hands, to be fair, he's worried to put his hands behind the back.
Exactly.
So he's playing it.
he's playing it
He's
safe.
been trained well.
By the way, that is the dinner. I told you there was a dinner where my guests and I are like, what the hell are we doing here? That was the dinner.
What month is that? Is
that
that
was
September?
in 2023.
That's in 2023.
That was in Arizona. And so Ruben Gallego was there, and then Gabby Giffords. Oh, if you want to know something about Gabby Giffords, we're going off on tangents, but you know who's married to her? Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly.
Mm-hmm. Arizona.
Someone who would know, he markets himself as this man who really loves his wife. Oh my God, I'm about to make news, aren't I? Someone who would know. Someone told me that he's having an affair with his wife, who's basically become a national hero for being shot. And he is, he portrays himself as this like superhero. Again, alleged, but this is someone, and I can tell you off air, who told me, this is someone who would definitely know. And it just sickens me, how the Democratic Party is filled with these people who pretend to be family guys, and they're just not.
Who was the biggest turnoff while you're in there, while you're around these guys? You're raising money for them. You're like, man, I want to help these guys out.
I mean, other than the DNC chair, who's a total clown. I mean, we already talked about
we
it,
already
right?
talked about who was the biggest turnoff? Who was rude? Who was disrespectful? Who was fake? Who was two-faced? Who?
Pete Buttigieg.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Because he believes his own press releases and thinks he's hot shit. He thinks he's amazing. And his team is just so rude. So rude. Unbelievably rude.
Really?
Yeah. It actually, I'm deeply offended. I will never forget. I'm never going to remember the way that they treated me. It was awful. Absolutely awful. And when I was sitting, I was given front row seats at the DNC. There were people who actually tried to remove me. And I was like, Rosa parking that shit. I was like, I'm not leaving. I'm just not. I earned this. I earned my right to sit here. And they literally tried to remove me from my seats. You can see photos of me in the front row. I just refused to budge.
And why were they trying to remove you? Just to remove you and put it with another donor?
Exactly.
Huh. How much time did you spend with him?
With Pete?
With Pete.
I spent the least amount of time with him, and after my brief interactions with him, I didn't want to.
How much time did you spend with Kamala?
A lot.
How was she with you?
I co-hosted many for fundraisers. She was, to be honest, she was a sweetheart.
She was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
And did you?
One time, actually, somebody accidentally broke my rib. I know it's a crazy story. I have like early onset osteoporosis. I told you I have some health issues. Someone broke my rib when he hugged me. And the next day, Kamala invited me to our I went to her Christmas party, and she hugged me and my broken rib. And I didn't want to tell her the backstory, because, oh my God, like that really hurts. But she hugged me out of love. And that was the funniest story. It's something I'm going to remember. Like when the vice president hugs her broken rib. She was a sweetheart, yeah. But that doesn't erase the fact that she was no way qualified to be president of the United States. Like a lot of people are sweethearts, right?
Why do you think she wasn't qualified?
You know the answer.
I have my opinion, but I want to know yours, because again, the difference between me and you is you were in there. You saw the thing.
I didn't know right away. It
Okay.
took me a while to realize.
When was it when you said?
Because I was so deep in the cult that I gave everyone the benefit of the doubt. Like I really wanted to believe that Joe is a good guy and he wanted the best for our country. I really wanted to believe that Kamala wasn't being treated fairly in the press. But when she was, for the first couple of weeks, I was like, okay, maybe she's got it. Maybe we should give her a chance. And you read some of my tweets where I was extremely enthusiastic. You have to remember that I was a member of the leadership team. I was a member of the National Finance Committee. It was my job to say those things, to be a team player. Okay, I want to make sure that people understand. I wasn't just spewing propaganda just because I had nothing better to do. They gave us talking points on a daily basis.
Who's they?
The campaign, the White House, we were sent talking points.
Through what format?
Through email. But from the Office of Digital Strategy, we would get emails from them.
And what would the email look like? What would it say?
It would be like, hey, team, here are the talking points that we're going to discuss today. Oh, and something I should mention, every single time someone dared to question Biden's mental fitness, we were basically told to attack the person. For example, Robert Hur, remember him? The special counsel who's called Biden elderly man
absolutely.
with a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
I mean, he was very respectful about it, the way he delivered the message. I thought he was very respectful.
And actually, I was kind of taken back by the racist attacks the Democrats started launching against him. This party of diversity started lobbying, racial animus towards this guy. And I should have learned from that they would do the same thing to me. I should have, but I should have. Now looking back, 2020 is hindsight. But so when something like that would happen, when someone dared to question his fitness, we were told to attack that person personally, to undermine his credibility, to assassinate their character.
This is an email telling you how to do it, or is that on conference calls or Zooms?
If it was something bad like that, it would be on a conference call or a Zoom where there wouldn't be a paper trail. But we had very frequent conference calls.
What would they say? They would say, this person said this.
This person has no credibility. Just go after him. And we knew exactly what to do. Like they didn't even, it was very mob-like. It was like very Tony Soprano. And then we were told to go after people like Merrick Garland for slow walking the prosecution.
Garland, out of all people?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because a lot of libs think that he took his time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That is so.
There's a huge contingent.
That is so strange to go
because
after him.
I know a lot of conservatives hate him too. Like,
exactly. It's interesting. Who did you learn that has the most power behind closed doors that everybody fears, that no one knows about? Who had the most power?
There were three of them. Steve Rich. Oh, other than Jill Biden, that was a given, right? Jill Biden, the wife, she has tremendous power.
Really?
Yeah, she was a president essentially for the past 4 years, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I'm actually convinced that if it weren't for Jill, Biden would have not run for re-election. Jill and Hunter were the two people who kept him in the race because he was worried about his son's freedom, his only remaining son, and Jill didn't want to relinquish power. She was Lady McBiden, as they say. But the three people who had the most power, other than Jill, who's the obvious person, Steve Ricchetti, Mike Donnellan, and Anita Dunn, the senior advisors. I was most close with Anita, who's actually very nice to me.
And what gives them the kind of power they say they have? Like, what could they do?
They could do anything.
What's anything?
Run the world.
So you're telling me Anita Dunn, this is Anita Dunn, which you're saying she was nice to you.
Yes.
And who were the other two you said?
Steve Ricchetti and Mike Donnellan.
Rob, can you pull them up? Steve. Did you say Ricchetti?
Ricchetti. R-I-C.
Right there.
It's Italian.
Ricchetti.
Yeah.
Political last served as counselor to the president Biden, who was also chairman of Joe Biden 2020. Ricchetti previously served as chief of staff to Biden during the Obama administration, deputy chief of operations under Clinton. In between stints in Democratic administration, Ricchetti worked as a lobbyist. And who was the last one you said?
Mike Donnellan. And what's significant about Donnellan is that he was the one feeding Biden the fake poll numbers, saying that he could still beat Trump after the debate.
Him right here.
Him right there. And you know what these people have in common? Well, less so with Anita. Anita is kind of an Obama veteran. Donnellan and Ricchetti, the reason why they reached that pinnacle of power is because they're longtime friends with Biden. They're not super smart geniuses or anything like that. Their major credential is decades-long loyalty. In 1988, when Biden had to drop out because of plagiarism, Donnellan was with him. So they go way back, before I was even alive.
Got it. So two of them are loyalists to Biden. One of them, Anita's a loyalist to Obama.
But also loyal. But she comes from Obama world, but she's also a loyalist to Biden. She prides herself on holding Biden's grudges. That's what she says, yeah. So Biden, he's mellowed out in his years. But Anita, she's a fighter. She was the person who came up with Dark Brandon. Remember that meme?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So grudges, who were some of the people that Anita protected the grudges from? Like if you're saying he was about grudges, who were some of the grudges with? It has to be with the party, with certain people within the party.
Exactly, like people who dare to undermine Biden. Like, for example, Joe Manchin, who wouldn't pass this legislation. Kamala Harris. They hated her.
Pre her running?
Oh,
while she was VP?
Absolutely. Do you remember in the first couple years of the term, her office was constantly undergoing turmoil?
Right.
It was just, there was so much drama. People were leaving in droves. There was so much turnover. Anita Dunn and crew, they didn't think highly of Harris. She couldn't run her own office. And Ron Klain, who was the chief of staff at the time, he was replaced by Jeff Zients. He had to like come in, like exert control over the situation.
So far, Manchin, Kamala. By the way, did Biden and Jill choose Kamala as the VP?
Jill hates Kamala Harris.
Always.
Hates her.
Recently or always?
Viciously.
Why?
Always, because of the debate on, if I remember correctly, it was June 28th, 2019.
I remember
when the bus thing.
I remember that.
Exactly.
Can you pull that up, Rob, if you're talking about the bus thing? Yeah.
And the bus thing, I was with Biden the next day in San Francisco at a fundraiser, and he was shook. Like, no one expected that to happen. And Jill was one of the people who opposed Biden picking Kamala for VP. But he kind of tied himself in knots when he promised to pick a black woman. He left himself with a few options, you know?
So was Kamala chosen as the VP because Biden had to choose it based on what Trump said, based on what Obama said, or he wanted her because she was polling well, and let me choose her as a VP instead of other guys that you
by
couldn't
polling well, you mean 1%.
Well, at one point she got up to 17. I think at one point she was at 14%.
And then dropped 1% and never recovered.
So
she didn't even make it to Iowa.
So then why would you choose her as a VP?
2 words. James Clyburn, who saved his ass in South Carolina. So many things can be attributed to this guy. Because if it weren't for James Clyburn, we never would have had the Biden presidency.
Why is that?
Because he came in 5th in New Hampshire and lost Iowa terribly.
I remember that.
And the only reason why he won South Carolina in such dramatic fashion was because James Clyburn, who's so widely loved in the state, endorsed him.
So if James Clyburn doesn't endorse him, he doesn't win South Carolina.
He's done.
Who would have been a replacement?
They were scared it would have been Sanders. Do you remember that? All the moderates
For sure.
coalesced together.
Sanders,
Amy Klobuchar,
Pete, Warren.
Exactly. Actually, Warren was, she's progressive. But all the moderates got together and endorsed Biden that night. I think it was in a joint rally in Houston or somewhere in Texas. And so Clyburn saved him. And with that came tremendous power. He got him to promise that the VP would be a black woman, that this next SCOTUS pick would be a black woman.
So so he's that powerful? Clyburn is that powerful?
He's very powerful.
So,
you know who got him to, this is a very important part that I don't want to forget. Biden endorsed Harris 30 minutes after he dropped out. Do you remember?
I do.
On July 21st. You know who told him to do that?
Who's that?
Oh, James Clyburn.
But why does he owe the favor to him? Just because of him helping him out in South Carolina?
Without James, there's no presidency. He would have been dead in the water. Do you remember? Everyone wrote him off for dead after New Hampshire. It was that bad. He was losing to Pete Buttigieg.
So is James Clyburn a person that's close to, is he part of Obama's camp or he stands alone on his own?
He's very much part of Biden's camp.
So he's not an Obama guy.
He is. They're all there's so much overlap, but he's very much a Biden loyalist.
The reason why, so we got the 3 names. Rob, if you can go back to all the 3 names, Anita being one of them, okay? You had Anita as one. Then we had Stephen Ricchetti. Then you had Michael Donnellan. When you say they could do anything, what were some of the things that they did that people feared? Because the question was, are they feared?
My point is, they were essentially the president behind the scenes, and Biden was just the facade.
And that's why Mike would give the wrong polls just to make Joe think that he can, when he has a shot, to keep running.
So that Mike could continue in power. All of these people knew that this is a final gravy train, that they would never be hired by another. Can you imagine another Democratic candidate hiring these people? It just wouldn't happen. They are Biden creatures through and through. They realized that this was their last act.
Wow. So what do they do now, though? What do they do now to make money? Are they lobbyists? Are
I'm
they
sure
working
they're rich enough that they don't have to work again.
Due to what? Because the job doesn't pay that well.
Due to what? These are the same people who came up with Burisma and the fact that Biden pardon his family on the last day, not just for the past year, but all the way back to 2014. These people, everyone that I just named, they're all part of Biden world. They're all part, the entire Biden world operation is influence peddling. I'm sure they're fine. Like James Biden was wrapped up in this failed hospital network business. They have businesses in Ukraine, China, all over the place. They're going to be fine.
Well, I mean, something funny is the FBI agent that I was talking to at DOJ when they were dealing with the property that we bought, she was also suing Joe Biden's brother.
Oh, for the hospital thing?
Yeah,
oh,
linked to
wow.
it. Very weird. I'm like, wait, what? I'm like looking her up. I'm like, she's suing? Who was this lady? Finally, we had many calls on it. Eventually, when the property was finally on auction, we were able to find a way to pick up the property. But, okay, so Jill Hunter, did you spend any time with Hunter?
He was always in the row in front of me, and we exchanged like pleasantries, but we never had extensive conversations. It wasn't good optics for me to be seen with him. Like, even as a Democrat, I didn't want to be attached with him because he's just such a scumbag, with all due respect. Like, I don't want to be, like, I was always really disgusted by the fact that he was walking around like royalty.
Was he? Like,
he was, absolutely. Like, he owned the place. I saw him. We did a fundraiser with George Clooney and Julia Roberts. He was in the front row, pretending like he owned the place. I was involved with a fundraiser with Bill Clinton, Obama, and Biden on, I think, either March or April of 2024 at Radio City Music Hall. And Hunter was again in the front row, pretending like we didn't all see him with his thing hanging out in a bathtub. Like, do you have no shame? I would never want to show my face in public again if that happened to me.
You have to be very shameless to be able to do that and reappear as if nothing happened. And
like nothing happened, and he would be doing selfies with people with guests. I don't even know why anyone would want a selfie with him, to be honest.
How was Obama around Hunter? Did you see anything?
I actually didn't. I don't remember seeing anything. Obama, you know, one of the biggest casualties of the 2024 election, it's Obama.
I agree.
Yeah, and not just in the eyes of Republicans, but in the eyes of Democratic donors, like the people who matter behind the scenes. People are so fed up with Obama, and also the Obama consultants, Obama veterans, like Jen O'Malley Dillon, who is the chair of the Harris campaign.
Mm-hmm.
These people make so much money. You got to remember that $500 million, which were advertising fees, went to just 4 well-connected Democratic firms, and all of them are run by Obama veterans.
Wait, $500 million?
$500 million.
Advertising fees.
Like TV ads. Like every time you know, like when you run political ads, whoever puts it up for you gets a percentage. And so firms like, for instance, Bully Pulpit International, which is run, you've heard of them or no?
Bully Pulpit?
Bully Pulpit International.
Yep. I haven't heard of them, but go for it. I'm listening.
They're a huge Democratic firm. They're a part of Obama world. They made so much money.
What's the business model on how they make money?
They just create ads for you, and then they just make a shit ton of money. They make a killing, and that's where the donor money went.
So ads, as in these are ad agencies.
The shitty ads that didn't even work.
10 or 15% of whatever the ad spend they're doing.
Exactly. It's so much money, and you know how expensive those TV ads are. Hey guys, I'm so excited to be on Connect. I will answer any questions, no matter what it is, whether it be politics, sex, your love life, family issues, whatever it is. I'm here for you. I want to be your friend. I want to talk with you and understand you. So please reach out. I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks so much, guys.
So Obama loses credibility. Would you put him at the top as a person that lost the most credibility in 2024 election? As a Democrat.
Underneath Harris and Obama, underneath
Harris.
Biden and Harris, yeah, absolutely. And you could tell that he was fighting for his third term. Like, he was fighting for his life out there. Remember the time he was lambasting black men for not voting
Yes.
for? Exactly.
Yes.
Like, that was a bit too much.
Lecturing them.
Exactly.
And,
it was very condescending.
Very.
Like, they can't think for themselves.
Very.
Yeah.
Behind closed doors, what did they think of him? Were others saying, I think he has lost his sizzle. I think he's lost his touch.
Yeah. After that moment, people were like, hold up. That is not the strategy.
But who is saying that? Which powerful people are saying
the
that?
donors, like the people who were funding the whole thing.
They're saying, wow, so it had that big of an impact.
You can hear that he never said it again.
Who were some of the biggest donors? Like in this model where you desperately need the money of the donors, who owns who?
The person at the top of the food chain of the Biden-Harris donor food chain is a guy named Jeff Katzenberg. And if people remember, he's the guy behind DreamWorks Entertainment.
Yeah, so he's a player.
Exactly. And people...
I think he started Quibi, and he raised a bunch of money with Quibi, $2.3 billion, and it failed within 5 months, 6 months.
It was an embarrassment. Didn't he do it with some governor?
Yeah, Meg Whitman.
Exactly.
It was Meg Whitman and a few other people. Yeah.
Right. And so the theory of the case is that he was so humiliated by that he wanted to rehabilitate his image by proving that he could play it with the big boys, that he could, be the kingmaker. And that's why he went so hard for Biden and Harris.
And but you're saying as a donor, are you saying he said, I don't think Obama has it anymore?
Oh, no, he wasn't. I'm just saying he's the most important donor.
He's the most important
Absolutely.
donor.
And he was the one who got the Hollywood. He was the person behind the Clooney and Julia Roberts event that I just mentioned. Mm-hmm. I don't think he mentioned the Biden stuff, but I mean like donors that you wouldn't even recognize. Like it's not even worth mentioning, but who wield tremendous influence behind the scenes saying Obama shouldn't be attacking black men. Or for instance, actually one reason why Biden was so pro-Israel is because all of his donors were pro-Israel. I remember one time it was the morning after the Radio City Music Hall event that I just told you about. A woman got up and gave this teary-eyed speech about Biden standing up for Israel and how thankful she was. And the entire room stood up and applauded her. And for all the progressives wondering why Biden supported Israel, this is why. It's because that's what the donors wanted.
Kamala lost that one because she had a shot. By the way, where were you when Kamala was choosing who to be the running mate as the VP? What conversations were being had, and who else was super close to being? Because Josh Shapiro, being Jewish, was he one of the ones that was possibly being considered?
I was one of the biggest supporters of Josh Shapiro. Even though I'm no longer part of the party, I still harbor tremendous amount of respect and love for that man. And I'm probably going to catch flack for it, but friendship is friendship, and so it is what it is. I think he's one of the most talented people in the Democratic Party. And I was on air on TV consistently throughout that week, saying that Josh Shapiro is our best bet. But Harris was intimidated by him because he was so good in relation to her. He was just a much better speaker. I mean, it's not even...
Oh, they're not in the same league.
Exactly.
No, Josh speaks like a president.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, do you remember when the stories came out? Rob, what stories came out about him supporting a friend that killed somebody and,
the suicide thing?
The suicide thing.
Unfortunately, in the past
week... Shooting 20 times in the back or stabbing 20 times in the back.
In the past week, more news came out about that.
Got it. And the only reason I'm bringing this up, because the timing of this being released was right
to destroy him.
But you think Kamala would be involved in wanting to destroy her?
No. It was the progressives, the people who hated Israel.
Such as?
The vicious online people who probably live in a garage. It was really that. It was an online mob. But no one in power wanted to. Other than it really came down to Andy Bashir, Mark Kelly, Josh Shapiro, and Tim Walz, which is such a dumb mistake. Like Tim contributed.
Who picked Tim? Did Kamala pick Tim? I don't think Kamala has that much power to pick Tim. Who picked him?
She picked him.
She picked him as a VP?
And someone who had tremendous impact on the decision-making process was a guy named Tony West, who's a chief legal officer of Uber. And you know who Tony West is, other than that?
Mm-mm.
Her brother-in-law. Remember how in 2019 she had all her family members involved and everything went to shit?
Mm-hmm.
She learned nothing from it and did the same thing. Her family was, again, heavily involved in the 2024 campaign, and Tony West was deeply involved in the vetting process for VP.
There was something with Tony West we talked about, Rob, on a podcast about a year ago. What was the link with Tony West behind closed doors? His wife or his connection, or what was the...
His wife is the sister of Kamala Harris.
But there was something there that with... I remember clearly us talking about Tony West about something. about something. I don't know what it was, but he came up about...
In a good or bad way?
Not in a good way. I don't know what it was when the story came up.
He had some... It might have been in connection with Eric Holder, the Attorney General. They had some shady dealings.
It could have been. It could have been. But he came up on a podcast that we talked about a year and a half ago. Is that it, Rob? Or some confirmation? Anyways, I don't know what it is. So Tony West was influential in her picking Tim Walz.
Right. They thought that he would be the guy to do the least damage, but then he turned out to be a pathological liar, lying about how he was in Tiananmen when he was really in Nebraska. I mean, who makes that kind of lie? It's like, so it's not even like a...
Oh, he was maybe the worst VP pick I've ever seen. I don't know what happened when this guy was picked. He pulled his son's arm the way he did at the one thing, and I don't know if you remember that one or not. There was a...
But his son was like sobbing at the DNC too.
Yeah, but then he pulled him like, get your act together, and was like, whoa,
oh,
okay,
wow.
cool. You've never seen that? It was a very, right there. There's a Tim Walz arm pull son.
Oh my
arm
gosh.
pull. You didn't see this one? Just very weird when you see this. Is
And
that
his
it?
son...
Watch this.
Oh, wow. His son has special needs. That makes it worse. You know his son is special
Yeah,
needs.
I know. That's the moment where I'm like, dude, what was that?
Oh
Look
my
at that.
God.
Yeah, that was.
So he must be a monster behind him.
I don't know what he is.
Oh
I don't know what he is, but I do know when him and AOC were playing video games, neither one of them was actually playing video games, and I don't know what that Madden thing they were trying to pull off,
my
thinking that's a
gosh.
good idea.
Exactly.
But okay, so that's that part. Now the money part, like, hey, I remember Ben Stiller. I never got paid. Sean Penn. Never got paid. Never got paid. Oprah. No one paid me directly. I mean, you see these numbers that we read about. Oprah Winfrey got paid $1 million through Harpo Productions for event production, not personal fee. Beyonce $165.
I'm just asking you to spell Harpo backwards.
I know, it's Oprah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Harpo,
it's her company.
Yeah, it's her magazine called
So
Harpo.
how could you possibly say you weren't paid?
That's the point. And then you have, other influencers that not disclose $4 million, good influence $500,000, People First Marketing $500,000, and
You know whose name is not on there?
who is that?
Yours truly. Me.
Oh, that you didn't get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, see what
I
you're
wasn't
saying.
paid for anything.
Yeah, but these are celebrities that are collecting checks. Was the rumor right that Beyonce got a fat check? Because this says only $165. Do you know how much Beyonce actually got paid or no?
I don't think it was the millions that was circulating,
Okay,
but she
got
was
it.
definitely paid for her quote unquote production costs. But remember what she actually did? She gave a speech. So
Never
what were the
performed.
production
2
costs?
minutes and
exactly.
got off. Yeah. So Megan Stallion, Lizzo, all these other guys were
That
mentioned.
Megan Thee Stallion, did you watch her performance? She
Horrible.
was like scantily
Embarrassing.
clad. And
Yeah.
what is that? What message are you trying to convey?
Embarrassing. So somebody thought these ideas were good ideas. That's
Jen
gonna-
O'Malley Dillon.
Who?
Jen O'Malley Dillon, who is Obama World fixture. She was the one who led Beto O'Rourke's. Yes.
She's the one that led Beto O'Rourke's.
And by the way, I was in the Oval Office in March 1st, 2024. By that time, she still hadn't moved to campaign headquarters. They were dragging their feet. Like Trump by that time was like deep in it. They were like rolling, cylinders were all rolling. In March 2024, she was still in the White House. So their campaign was like in two different locations.
Why though? Thinking it's a slam dunk, we're going to win no matter what. There's nothing they can do.
I think part of it was trying to conserve Biden's energy because they knew it was limited.
Well, that part makes sense. I mean, even in 2020, you barely saw what he was doing.
He was fortunate in that regard. In 2020, he could hide in there. No one would ask questions.
Very weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
And when you would see audiences show up, there were in many cases more staffers there than actually people wanting to see what he had to say.
Pat, that is such an incisive comment because I was there on May 19th, 2019, when he kicked off his campaign. It was in Philadelphia. I live there. And I remember, actually, that day was so hot, I had a heat stroke, but that's beside the point. I remember turning to my friend. I was like, why are there more members of the press here than supporters? This is embarrassing. This is Philadelphia. It's not a conservative heartland. It's the most democratic, the bluest possible city. And you can't get like more than 100 people to show up. We were in front of the Rocky Steps, it was unbelievable to me. And I figured maybe it was hot that day, but it was in May. It was not that hot, And throughout the campaign, let me say, there was a Blacks for a Biden event. By that time, Biden was still in the race. So few people showed up that they had to move the artificial wall closer to Biden to make it seem like more people were there. Do you understand? It was in a high school gym. And with Trump, people would be like hanging off the rafters. There would be so many people there. With Biden, they had to literally change the configuration of the room because there were so few people there. And they had to ask students. It was a Black Americans for a Biden event. They had to ask students to come in from their classrooms to fill the stands. I still have pictures on that on my LinkedIn.
That is embarrassing.
That is so embarrassing.
That is, by the way, the Taylor Swift. Everybody thought Taylor Swift.
That's the event. Exactly. Rob, you are so good. Wow. That's exact. Do you see what I mean? That's the event. You can probably see me in the front row too. I'm wearing an orange dress. But it looks like there were people there, but you can tell that they moved the...
Wow.
Yeah.
How many people were in the room?
How many supporters or how many members of the press? Because I think there were more members of the press.
That's the one you're talking about?
Yeah, exactly. It looks like there were people there, but after the camera stops, there's nothing behind, you know?
They left.
There's nobody there. It's not that they were left. There's
so
nobody
weird.
there.
That is so weird.
And you can tell that everyone up there is young because they filled, in the rafters, they filled that part with literal students who they snatched from classrooms that day.
How do you think they won 2020 election? You hear a lot of different things. I mean, you're in it. When they're talking, like I'm in Brazil last week, and there's this famous video of one of the judges walking past Alexandre de Moraes and says, hey, job promised, job done, something like that. And he taps him in the shoulder, okay? And Alexandre goes like this, like, good job. This is it. If you can fast forward to like 10 seconds, right there. You see right there. He's speaking. Guy walks up, one of the judges. Boom. Mission assigned, mission accomplished, okay? What happened with 2020 from you being on the inside that they brought? Because Obama called Lula the greatest politician in the world, and this judge goes and gets Lula out of prison to come and run against Bolsonaro because they had nobody that they thought could beat Bolsonaro. What really happened in 2020 when Biden won?
I will say that I'm not an election conspiracist, but I do think that election was rigged in some ways. For example, we should have learned more about Hunter Biden's laptop. The fact that the mainstream media completely buried it was a tremendous disservice to the American people. Not only that, you had revered members of the intelligence community like Anthony Blinken and Jake Sullivan, who became National Security Advisor. They came out and said it was Russian disinformation. Now we know that, guess what? It wasn't Russian disinformation. It was actual laptop. It was his laptop. And those photos were real. Those texts were real. Everything was real. And the fact that they hid it from the American people was a travesty. And I think it would have had an enormous impact on how people voted. Because who was the big guy? Joe Biden. Right? That information was withheld from voters. And also he benefited from the basement campaign. And they were hoping to run a Rose Garden campaign in 2024, which would have been similar, like very passive, and leaving the travel to surrogates.
But nothing else. Like, was there anything, were you ever in rooms where conversation was said?
I have to be honest. No one was like trying to cheat. Yeah.
There wasn't anything where you heard about the balance drop, this, that,
I mean, it's a usual Philadelphia corruption. It happens every time, though. Like the street money. Have you heard about that notion? Okay. Oh, my God. So, Pat, before I say this, someone very high up in the Democratic Party threatened to sue me after my Sean Ryan show. I could ruin his career just by naming him, but I'm going to do him a good deed today and not name him. But he knows, if he listens, he knows exactly who it is.
Is he somebody we know?
You would know that this role exists, and it's very prominent. And I can tell you off air who it is. I will tell you afterwards. He sends me a text. I actually gave it to Benny Johnson. He sends me a text saying, "Who's your lawyer? I want to give you the respect of sending it to the right person." And so I call him. I know him. I was like, "What are you suing me for?" And I was like, I was like, defamation has to be, I have to be saying something false. I was like, so tell me, what am I saying that's false? And so we dissected everything I said. I was like, and he agreed with me that everything I said was true, but he just didn't want it packaged it together for the American people in a digestible fashion. So I'm mentioning this now because he's probably going to send me another threat, because here I am talking about the street money. He doesn't like me talking about the street money, which is very corrupt. Philadelphia has a habit of giving ward leaders money. They just hand out money on election day.
To who? To voters?
To ward leaders.
To ward leaders?
Yeah.
And in doing so, what do you get in return?
It's supposed to turn out the vote. I'm trying. This is. It's like it's the underbelly of Philadelphia politics. I'm not sure if Chicago does this too, but it's a long story tradition in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So the practice involves leaders.
Is there a Wikipedia page for this?
Yeah, there's a political small amounts of money to individuals, often in lower income individuals, to incentivize them to vote. The use of street money has been long-standing tradition in Philadelphia's political landscape. However, its prevalence declined over the years. So
it's still going on.
You're saying it's still going on.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know that?
Because we just talked about it days ago when he threatened to sue me. He didn't want me mentioning it on a national podcast.
I'd never heard of it before. So the money given out to ward leaders and
this is
party
something that
foot
they don't
soldiers,
want people to know.
ranging from $10, $20, $50, as high as $400 just for them to go vote. Ward bosses in cities, poor neighborhoods often use the money to offset the cost of gasoline and food for their volunteers.
But Pat, do you understand how easy it is to embezzle this money? Like, there's no accountability. No, you can just give it to party leaders and they can essentially do whatever they want. And Philadelphia is the birthplace of people like Johnny Dock. Have you heard of him? The labor leader who was imprisoned for corruption, embezzling funds. It's a very Philadelphian tradition. Members of our city council are often in prison. Johnny Dock, there you go.
Can you pull up his picture, Rob? I think I know the story.
This guy was extremely close with Hillary Clinton.
This guy was?
Yes. And part of the reason why, if you ever wonder why the DNC was held in Philadelphia in 2016, the two-word answer is Johnny Dock.
He gets 6 years in prison for what? Bribery and theft? Former Philly labor leader. Can you go to his Wikipedia, Rob, just to see what the story is about this guy?
Right
Turns
there.
out 2019 was indicted. 98 investigation that charged him with missing union funds for personal benefits and corrupting a public. Doherty pleaded not guilty. City Council, November 20th, the federal judge overseeing the case ruled that the indictment would be split into separate trials. Can you click Control F Clinton? Control F Clinton. See if there's anything that comes in the profile.
It
Nothing.
doesn't.
But it's definitely true.
Is it known?
Within,
And what do you think he did
circles.
for Clinton? Like, what's the relationship
Get out the
there?
vote. He headed the most powerful union in the Mid-Atlantic region called Local 98. They're extremely close. And I assume that he was expecting her to protect him from prosecution.
Have you had any interaction with Hillary Clinton? Anything?
Yes.
Like you met her face to face?
Yes, and I know her. I know Marjorie Margolis, who is the mother of the man that Chelsea Clinton married. So I'm actually very close with Marjorie. Well, I used to be. Her husband was arrested. I mean, these people. It's like one after another. ending up
Marjorie's
in
husband
jail.
was arrested?
Yes.
What did he do?
She is a former congresswoman, and he engaged in corrupt acts. His name is. Did you find him? I can't see that far.
Marjorie Margolis
Yes.
Mezvinsky.
Yes, that's the guy who was arrested.
What's the husband's name, Rob? Can you go to there's his husband, spouse,
Mark.
Edward.
That's his son. That's
his
her
son.
son.
It's Edward.
Yeah.
See where it says Edward?
sorry.
There you go. It's all good. So, Representative and a felon, a Democrat who represented Iowa's 1st Congressional District. Graduated, but why was he a felon? In 2010, he became a father-in-law to Chelsea Clinton, the daughter of Hillary and Bill Clinton. Jewish immigrant, Russian Empire. Go a little bit lower to see what the felony charges were about. Criminal in terms of was indicted and later pleaded guilty 31 out of 69 felony charges of bank fraud, mail fraud, and wire fraud. Mazinski had been working with an attorney at the time, funneling, embezzle, and fraudulent obtained money to West African conmen after falling victim to an online advance fee scam in the waning days of the Clinton presidency before the indictment was handed down. Mazinski's wife wrote personally to Clinton requesting a pardon for her husband. Clinton declined. Nearly $10 million was involved in the crimes. Shortly after indictment, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but the judge has disallowed a mental illness defense. So it's kind of like that movie with, what's his name, Edward Norton, Primal Fear.
Yeah.
You have two personalities. So
Conveniently.
what was Hillary like? I hear she's a sweetheart.
Really? That's a joke,
obviously,
right?
I'm being.
That's
I'm being
oh my God!
I just wanted to see a reaction.
That's one person that's not a sweetheart. That's not a sweetheart.
What was she like?
She's very cynical and jaded. Yeah.
Cynical or jaded. So that means at one point she wasn't cynical and jaded.
I probably wasn't alive then. But,
so tell me what you mean by cynical and jaded.
Very practiced, very choreographed, not genuine. Like Biden, say what you want about him, but he's genuine. He is. I mean, at least with me, like on a human level. He's not faking it. I mean, he faked his presidency, but he's not faking his human emotions. Kamala is a different story, but Hillary is just like almost an android.
What do you mean by that?
She's not like can you imagine talking with her about like human pain and like stuff that you're going through? Absolutely, like it wouldn't
register.
You would exactly. You would never be able to reach her heart.
Why do you think that is?
I think a part of it is just being attacked so often over the decades, and also her thirst for power. Her pursuit of power was her raison d'etre. Like it's the thing that animated her soul. She needed it. And you could tell like her 2016 campaign was so stilted and so emotionalist. That's why Bernie Sanders caught fire, because at least he was real. Like I hate that communist socialist shit, but at least he was real.
Yeah.
Like Trump is so real.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, Trump and Bernie, similar, straight up. They had very loyal fans, different ideologies.
You could tell that they were real.
Yeah, I agree. And how much time did you spend with Hillary?
Less than I did with Biden. I was like a teen. I was like 20 when she was running. I was 25. When she was running, I was 25 years old.
Got it.
So was just leaving Morgan Stanley. I was the youngest woman to run for Congress. So when she was running, I was running for Congress. Yeah. I understand that people have to harden as a result of pain. So I can't blame her entirely for that, you know? Because even in the past couple of weeks, as I mentioned, I'm a changed person. I'm no longer the person that walked into Sean Ryan's studio. The hate campaign and like allegations, the completely false allegations against me, have skewered my soul. I've been on my bedroom floor, just crying. And this is not me. I want to be clear. This is not me playing the victim. This is just vocalizing what happened to me and explaining my journey. I don't need anyone's sympathy. I'm a strong chick. I got this. But I'm telling you that pain changes you. It's like walking through a refiner's fire.
I don't disagree. So you're saying that's why Hillary is the way she is.
But, you know, the things that people accuse her of, I think a lot of it is true. But the things that people accuse me of, it's just not true. So she's corrupt. But I know that I'm not.
You've now been accused of having a lot of your peers and coworkers close to you commit suicide. That's not happened with you yet, right? That's the stuff that we hear from her. No?
I mean, one person is weird, but when it's more than one person, you're exactly right.
When you were a donor on the inside and other powerful guys would bring up the name Hillary, would anybody be like, yeah, would you hear, were there any moments like that, or was it no?
People thought she was, she's a used up, she's done.
She's done.
She's washed up.
At what point were people saying she's used up? Like
right,
a while back, or?
At November 7th, 2016, she was done. Like, there's no future for her.
So 9 years ago. We're not
exactly,
talking.
and they're saying the same thing about Kamala Harris. So I think that it's actually quite amusing that Kamala Harris is walking around like she still has a chance. She's done.
Let me ask this question. Do you remember where you were when Trump got assassinated, and what was being said behind closed doors when that happened? Not he got assassinated, the assassination attempt. What was being said? Was there any?
Election's done. He won.
Who said that?
Democratic donors. Because you got to remember that Biden had COVID around this time, so the split screen was terrible. You had Trump triumphantly just demonstrating tremendous self-possession and courage on the stage, and then you had Biden struggling to go up the short steps to Air Force One. It could not have been starker. So my phone is blowing up that day. I remember vividly, July 13th, Butler, Pennsylvania, and a few hours from where I live, actually. And donors were just saying, it's done. We might as well just pack up and go home now. How do you beat a guy like that?
Was there any weird moments of anybody saying, shoot? I mean, close. Like, was there anybody that was disappointed that wasn't successful?
Oh, no. Other than losers on X. But you have to remember that the donors I'm dealing, they're like multimillionaires and billionaires. They're not dregs of society. They're not like trash on the streets who delight off this stuff. They're not like, no one wants Trump dead. They wanted to beat him. I'm talking about the donor level, but there are a lot of Democratic influencers who are like straight up evil. They were like, oh, we're so upset that the bullet didn't go 5 inches in another direction.
Was there any aides, any people that were working on the administration?
That's a step too far.
You think that's a step too far for them?
That's a step too far, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
Well.
I have to give credit where credit is due.
All right.
Yeah.
Well.
That's a little bit too evil for me.
The story that came out right now, that there was a second accomplice. Rob, I don't know if you saw that or not, that there's another person involved.
I do want to say, though they didn't vocalize it, I can't promise that it didn't cross their mind. Because how do you beat a guy like that? You just can't. He became an absolute icon that day. You even had Mark Zuckerberg saying that was a badass thing to do. Mark Zuckerberg, who wasn't known to be a Republican.
Yeah. What's this one, Rob?
Oh, wow.
The would-be Trump assassin Thomas Crooks may have had accomplice. Data shows as investigator says FBI is suppressing info. Can you go a little bit lower? It's been 9 months since the seemingly mild-mannered 20-year-old attempted to assassinate then Republican presidential nominee Trump at a rally in Butler, and we still have no good reason why. Sources tell the FBI obstructed effort to solve the mystery, why Thomas Matthew Crooks, who left no manifesto, did what he did. It left local law enforcement as well. Those who may know Crooks' parents have refused all interviews and remain in their small 3-bedroom. Okay, go a little lower. So who's accusing of this, Rob? FBI Director Kash Patel is going to get to the bottom of this. Conservative political option. Elon Musk yelled out to the audience. A veteran private investigator, Ernie, who hired shortly after the fateful July 13 event at Butler, tried to look into the crimes. Doug Governor, who's a team 6 investigators, have been working at the case for months and have interviewed 100 people, said they also conducted extensive geofencing. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I hope we get to the bottom of it because no one's really talking about it. I'm just wondering if there was anybody that was...
I just can't believe it even happened.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like such an obvious hole in the security perimeter.
But by the way, guys like Harry Sisson, that kind of blew up.
I know him very well.
So, obviously he's very useful to the Democrats.
He's very well compensated, I want you to know. He gets paid the DNC, by super PACs, by...
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
When you say well compensated, what type of numbers are you talking about?
Hundreds of thousands?
Per year?
I would imagine so. He's being paid by TikTok, by the DNC, by various Democratic firms like Good Influence.
Good Influence pays Harry Sisson.
I'm almost positive, yeah. Good influence pays a lot of influencers.
Who else outside of him?
All of them are paid. Literally all of them. Like, Brooklyn Dad? Have you heard of him?
No.
Oh, yeah.
Who's he?
Doesn't even live in Brooklyn. He actually
doesn't.
relocated to Florida, but he's one of those.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, what a sham.
This guy.
I don't know who he is, though. Who is he?
A popular influencer from the left. He's very, very anti-Trump, very vocal.
Okay.
And JoJo from Jurors.
Joe who?
Bob, I like you already. I love the noises you're making. You know what catfishing
I know her.
is?
Yeah, I know her. So you're saying they're all getting paid?
You know what You know what catfishing is?
No.
When you have an avatar that looks nothing like who you
Oh,
actually are.
yes.
I've seen this woman. She looks nothing like.
Seriously?
Nothing. Not even close. That is the most airbrushed photo I've ever seen in my life.
Her eyes look like it's in Russian.
This
You would
is
say
not
kukla,
a
like
real
a doll.
person. This is an AI generated.
What does she look
something.
like in real life? Can we see what she looks like in real life? Like
There are some actual photos of her, and she looks. It's almost deceitful. It's deceitful.
she looks good. I don't know about.
Well, that's the photo that she posted. You can't trust any photos that she posts. It has to,
So okay, so these guys are getting paid. I guess then my question would be: let's go a little bit deeper than that. Are they getting paid to say things they don't believe in?
Yes, because I know for a fact that.
Got it. So you don't think Harry Sisson believes in what he's saying?
I know that he didn't think that Biden was fit.
How do you know that? The way he described
Because
Biden
we shared
was
a manager for like a month.
you guys shared a manager together for a month. You're kidding me. He made it seem like Biden was a second dad to him.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I even spent more time with Biden than he did. I think he met Biden like twice.
And so he just said it because
I do want to say, like, Harry, if you're listening to this, I mean, I still like you as a person. I'm sorry, but it is the truth, and you know I'm telling the truth. Like, you didn't think that Biden was fit. Here's the deal. Here's what happened. People were so terrified of Trump. They believed that he was an existential threat to democracy, so they were willing to say whatever it took to defeat him.
that you think he believes in, that Trump was an existential threat
He
to
definitely still believes that.
He just doesn't believe that Biden was a good fit to run.
No one thinks that, other than if your last name wasn't Biden, and if you're not on the Biden gravy train, I don't think anyone believes that Biden was fit. It was so obvious. His brain was melting in real time. And that's why you read all those tweets that I wrote. Never once did I say he was mentally sharp. I just said, do you remember I said he was kind and compassionate? I was kind of trying to dance around. Like, they asked me to tweet this stuff, but I couldn't say that he had the intellect to do it. He didn't.
What did the DNC think about Vivek?
Non-factor.
Non-factor.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting that they call themselves a party of diversity, but they attack these really prominent Indian Americans or minorities on the Republican side. Like, you see the viciousness that with which they've gone after Kash Patel. Like, what happened? I thought you were all for elevating minorities. So all of a sudden, Kash Patel is a monster. Like, what happened to the party of DEI? Something else I want to mention. I hate that DEI shit and the woke shit. I want to be very clear. Asian Americans are not helped by DEI. We are one of the most highest scoring academic performers. So I see all of these critics in my replies saying, oh, but she's DEI. No, I'm an Asian American woman. I'm actually the demographic that is most hurt by these policies.
That is statistically
it is
true.
true.
Now, that's statistically true because they look at you as worse than white. I know that sounds kind of weird because, especially these big universities,
yes,
Harvard
absolutely.
and a lot of these guys, when they look at the numbers because apparently you have an advantage because you get better grades, and it's not fair because others should have an opportunity, not you, because you get better scores on your SAT, et cetera, et cetera.
I got a 2390 on my SATs.
Are you bullshitting me? You got a
And
2390?
by the way, I took the SATs 3 times and I got a 2390 on my second try. I took it again to get a perfect score. I scored lower the third time. It was like 23 something. But I got waitlisted by Harvard. And I remember
you got 2390 out of 2400.
Yes. And I got waitlisted by Harvard. I thought my life was over. But can you imagine if I were a Black American, if I had gotten a 2390?
You would have been the president.
Exactly.
Yeah. You would have been the president of Harvard overnight. Forget about it. She doesn't even need to go to school.
But what I mean is, it's just totally unfair. So yeah, for those numbskulls out there who don't understand how reality works.
So another question here,
Yeah.
but we're getting close to the end here. So DeSantis and Newsom, when that debate took place. Okay.
Oh my gosh, people were erupting with fury because Harris thought that Newsom was stealing her thunder. Behind the scenes, Harris World was pissed off. People were ripping their hair out. They were so mad at Newsom. Newsom World and Harris World, they hate each other.
Really?
Absolutely.
And they're in the same area, though. So right now they're talking
That's
about...
the problem. Because now Harris is thinking about running for governor. And Harris, and then did you see Newsom has a new podcast
Yeah, I
to
saw that.
rehabilitate
Yeah.
his image because the California fires basically set his career on fire? He still very much wants to run for president.
I mean, it's very obvious that his ambitions are to be the president of the United States. There's no question about that.
If you were to open up a dictionary and look up used car salesman, you know whose picture would be there? Gavin Newsom, like literally.
Wow.
He's just like the embodiment of that.
There's a lot of big dealership in Sacramento. They may be calling him. Who
Exactly.
knows?
And his team reached out to me 3 years ago because they know I'm a fundraiser. These senators and congressmen, before I jumped ship, of course, they would hit me up on a daily basis begging me for money or begging me to host them. I've hosted Senator Tammy Duckworth, Josh Shapiro, like so many members of Congress. Oh, and then Ted Lieu comes over a few days before Biden drops and tells me, oh, there's no way Biden is going to drop. And Biden's definitely going to win because of abortion. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like a Democratic leader with the poorest prognostic skills I've ever heard. But I love you, Ted, if you're listening.
But when this was happening with Newsom and DeSantis, do you think both sides, because DeSantis' people don't like Trump. I mean, it's where it's at right now in the state of Florida.
The governor thinks
Byron Donalds,
exactly.
Trump is endorsing him, but Ron wants his wife Casey to run, right? So there's also that, where Ron thinks he's a better leader fit to be a president than President Trump was. The question is, do you think this was going on behind closed doors while you're doing fundraising pre-Kamala being in there because they were trying to find a way to get Biden out for Newsom to come in? Did those talks at all take place or no?
Newsom was always out there because in his mind, he always thought there was going to be a possibility that Biden wouldn't make it to the end.
He knew that.
He knew that.
And how do you know that he knew that?
Because as I mentioned, his team reached out to me 3 years ago preparing for it.
2022, 2021, they reached out.
2022. Yeah. I remember. They slipped into my DMs asking me to fundraise. Why would you? Bear in mind, I live in Pennsylvania, okay? So if you're reaching out to me, it's because you have national ambitions. I'm a national fundraiser.
And you're in a very important state.
Exactly.
Right. Wow. So they reached out in 2022, interest of you possibly fundraising for,
Exactly.
Did they say for him or for somebody?
Oh, it was a member from Newsom's team, yes.
And they specifically said.
And I'll tell you who it is off air. I just want to protect people's privacy. But this is for they didn't say presidential campaign. But if you're going to elevate your finance
for sure.
operation,
Yeah.
it's for like, what is he going to run for? National dog catcher?
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. I mean, that's the part where, when it was happening, I mean, obviously, was there talks of Biden or others or, Nancy Pelosi, Schumer trying to get rid of Kamala in a way because they knew she didn't stand a chance to
definitely.
win, to have more like someone like this running?
Yes, that's why Pelosi wanted a lightning primary. Obama initially wanted somebody like Mark Kelly. He was vetting somebody like him, the astronaut dude that
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So Biden inadvertently did something brilliant. He fumbled his way into something smart. By picking Kamala, he insulated himself from getting booted out. If he had picked anyone who was even marginally better, they would have removed him months before. Because she was so weak, everyone was left in a catch-22. Do you understand what I'm saying? He picked the worst possible person. I don't know if it was like a Freudian move at that point, but by picking her, he ensured that he would not be removed because everyone knew how bad she was.
Wow. So picking a terrible number 2 that will never be able to outshine the boss, which is
and it
Joe
worked
Biden.
for a while. And what
She was horrible. I mean, the border. I mean, were there talks about how to, like, would there be conversations behind closed doors of, okay, here's how they're going to attack us. This is what we're going to say. Here's how they're going to attack the top 3 issues they're going to do. Border, they're going to attack this, they're going to attack that. We're going to say this. Were those types of anticipation of what could happen with Kamala?
Yeah. Well, she fucked up so badly that she stopped. Did you notice that she disappeared for like a year? Mm-hmm. So after she fucked up on the border, and then she was given civil rights. Those are her 2 agenda items. And then she did an interview, I think it was with Lester Holt, and she was laughing about it. And she's like, oh, I didn't go to Europe either. Like when they asked her, why didn't she go to the border? It was a very flippant and disrespectful answer. After those forays into the media world, she took a step back because she was so afraid of saying the wrong thing. So for about a year, she only did the most friendliest interviews. She only went into friendly territory because it was just so bad. She wasn't ready for prime time. But I must say that she did get progressively better, but never to the level required of a president. And I'm just so sad because I fully believe that women are capable of being a president, but she set back our cause. Because the Democrats are certainly not going to nominate a woman again. It's more like, here's my prediction, Pat. It's more likely that there's going to be a Republican female president first than a Democratic one.
I don't know if I disagree because they're 0-2 now.
Exactly.
Right? They're 0-2. And I'm sure if there's one person that didn't want Kamala to win behind closed doors, it's Hillary Clinton. There's no way Hillary sees Kamala as being the first female president than her.
Also, there's somebody else.
Who else?
Gretchen Whitmer, who's fucking pissed.
Why?
Because first of all, there's no way that she would have been VP because America wouldn't have accepted 2 women. So she was not on the short list. And she obviously wants to be the president.
Have you spent time with her?
She asked me to host her in Philadelphia in 2022. It didn't happen here's why it didn't happen. Because do you remember when something exploded, a pipeline exploded in Michigan, a water pipe exploded? What was that town in Michigan?
Oh, yes.
It happened on the same day she was supposed to come to Philadelphia. So the news reports like she canceled her East Coast trip. I don't remember what town it was, but that was the same day. I was supposed to help her do the rounds.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Was it the pipeline or was it a different event?
It wasn't a pipeline. I'm sorry. It was a water issue.
It was something. I remember
Something
I just don't think it was a.
Sorry, I misspoke. I'm not the best.
I'm trying to see what it was. Okay, well, you were saying, so because of that.
So she was already planning ahead is what I mean.
And so she also can't stand Kamala. So what's going to happen to Kamala next? Is she done permanently?
She doesn't think she's done. She just signed with CAA, just like Biden. And she's flirting with a run for governor. That's why she's out there doing word salads again. Did you see her latest one about the smell?
It's embarrassing.
I don't understand. What's going on in her head?
It's very embarrassing when you see that. It's not even funny how embarrassing
Pat,
it is.
what do you think the reason is for that? Is it like stupidity? Like what's going on here?
No, it's being too nervous to want to. She always tries to say a very epic thing. Like she's trying to be like, if you could only be here.
Yeah.
It is like so smell. And she's trying to be so dramatic. She doesn't need to be. She just needs to talk like a regular person. You don't need to be dramatic about it. She tries to be dramatic about it.
Because when I speak with her on a one-on-one basis, she's not like this. But all of a sudden, whenever there's a camera in front of her face, she's like, I don't understand.
You know what it's like? When she was in her 20s, a mentor told her something that she admired so much. Could have been the
Willie Brown.
The Willie Brown guy or somebody that said something to him. I mean, he was a heavy-duty guy. He was a very deeply connected in a deep kind of way. And, you know, maybe he said something to her that stuck out until today she thinks she needs to always show up when the camera's on. Could have been Montel, could have been somebody. Who knows what was said to her. It's very weird how she reacted.
I do want to say that if you're 30-something or in your late 20s dating a 6-year-old or something, it does raise questions.
What type of questions?
Is it for political reasons that you're dating this guy? Especially if he happens to be the mayor of San Francisco? I mean, that's the obvious question, right? I think, and it's not misogynistic for me to raise that question. Because I would never, I mean, I don't want to go there but I just think it's very weird. I just think it's very weird.
You were like, yeah, I don't want to go there, but there's a 62-year-old guy that I'm talking to. It's really nice. I would actually think about going on a date with him. You're like, you know what, let me not put it out there.
Exactly. You can read my thought bubble.
What's so funny where you went? No, listen, I mean, look, the man's got a reputation. Okay, he's got a reputation.
How she had these like no-show jobs, who were 6-figure, like it raises questions.
I don't know what it was. Everybody has different nicknames. I think some guy in LA called him a tripod. I don't know what it was.
Wow.
Whether it was in a media business or something like that. There was something I was said about Willie Brown. But last thing here, anything comes up with Epstein, because these Epstein files, do you have an opinion at all? Hey, it's going to come out. No, it's not going to come out. Hey, this is what's going on. No, that's what's going on. How closely are you following that, and what do you know about it?
I just want to say the fact that the DNC elevated Bill Clinton as one of the keynote speakers at the convention and that they had him running around Georgia, around the East Coast campaigning for Kamala Harris, disgusting. It was political malpractice. Who does that appeal to? He's already been exposed as a sexual predator. Anything connected to the Clinton name should be discarded and discredited. It's shameful. It's just shameful. And it's frankly scary that Hillary came so close in 2016.
What do you think would have happened if she would have won?
It would have been another Bill Clinton presidency.
He balanced the budget. He did a few things right. If you listen to some of his speech, I actually don't think it would have been Bill Clinton. I think he did some things right. There was a video that we watched play the other day about him saying, we have fired 300,000 government employees to be able to save money. We are, saving money with wasted expenditure. We have, for the first time, balanced the budget for 3 years in a row. Never been done before. And they hit da-da-da. And, that was kind of him and Newt Gingrich actually worked very well together at the time, the stuff that was going on. So, but I don't put the two together. I think he's very different than her. When I was in Hope, Arkansas for a funeral, I was going around asking people, hey, is Bill Clinton the player that everybody say he is? They're like, absolutely. I said, how do the locals feel about it? He says, you ever met Hillary? I'm like, no. Wow. He says, if you were married to Hillary, you'd also be running around. He says, that woman is evil. The guy says at one funeral when she was there and the way she treated people and the way she talked to everybody, it's like, man, everybody feared her because she was just an a-hole to all of us. I don't know if this is true or not. I've never had that interaction till the day we break bread, which when one day me and Hillary break bread, that would be an interesting breaking bread. I don't know if I would eat the bread, but I think I would definitely have the conversation.
You got to watch out for any.
Can you imagine? It's like,
don't take your eyes off the bread.
Johnny, I'm okay with this, buddy. I'll just take the water. Or you know what? I'll just go across the street to 7-Eleven, grab a bottle of Topo Chico and come back and have a hot dog from 7-Eleven, and you can serve the oysters and caviar and whatever you want to serve. But Lindy, anything else you want to say to the audience before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you. You've treated me with tremendous respect and graciousness. You and your staff, man, wow, the best staff in the world. This has just been incredible. Thank you for giving me a chance to share my story. You are a national treasure. Thank you for everything that you do. Your interviews literally shape international politics, not just within the confines of our country, but Brazil, everywhere, so thank you. And I loved your speech at CPAC. You absolutely crushed it.
Thank you. I appreciate you. By the way, Lindy is on Connect. I'm sure there's a lot of questions people got. If you got any questions, you can go Connect Lindy. And she's officially on Connect. That's a nice dress right there.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. She's on Connect, guys. Go find her. We'll put the link below for everybody. Lindy, again, thank you so much for coming out.
Thank you so much.
Take care, everybody.
Hey guys, I'm so excited to be on Connect. I will answer any questions no matter what it is, whether it be politics, sex, your love life, family issues, whatever it is, I'm here for you. I want to be your friend. I want to talk with you and understand you. So please reach out. I can't wait to hear from you. Thanks so much, guys.